We going underground, 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 going underground. Hey. All them hustles in the streets, we tryna reach it. You been grinding, now it's time to let the world see you. It's the underground, yeah. It's the underground. Titanium underground.
This is Casey, and I'm here for the Titanium Underground with Katie Apperson. Katie, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. So Katie is going to be my first interview for the Underground, and I'm really excited to have you here today, Katie. And what we're trying to do is we're just trying to bring some real specific short field topics to maybe people who are still just really working in the field, just tactics like that are laser focused and topics that are laser focused that, it's quick application to people that are in that place in their business, because we're all at our own different points in this journey. So
Yeah.
Our strategy and coming out to you guys with this different content here. So real excited to have Katie on here. So what we're going to cover today is just a few questions about Katie's field experience and a couple of topics about when she got started in this industry. So Katie, the first thing I want to go over is what, and I don't actually know the answer to this, so I'm really bring it out because I don't know what got you interested into the investment side of real estate, right? Because you're the investor-friendly realtor, and you've built an awesome niche and an awesome business for yourself, but what actually got you interested in investment real estate?
So when I first got started in real estate, I did do the traditional side of things. I was at Keller Williams. I, did all the open houses. I did, what they told me to, the door hangers and all of that. Right. And it just didn't align with how I felt. I'm like, why am I going to these neighborhoods and door knocking on houses that what if they just bought this house 3 months ago? To me, that was a waste of time. Mm-hmm. And that's just what they taught you in traditional real estate. At that time, I had started getting into Facebook ads. And I'll never forget, I went to Keller Williams has this class called Bold. You go to it and it hypes up your business and they teach you to touch all of these people and stuff like that. Well, I was getting into Facebook ads and I was taking in hundreds of leads a week just from Facebook ads. And I was having conversations, and this is where I learned to build out my message bots and all of that. And I went into this class and I was like, hey, here's all of my stuff that I've been doing. And they're like, well, that doesn't count because that's not a phone call. And I was like, what do you mean this doesn't count? I'm having real conversations with these people. I'm sending these people to my lender. It's just via Facebook. And that was before, I think now they've changed, some of what they do. And I went into doing Facebook ads for realtors and a brokerage. And then my partner that I had at the time, she actually switched and went over to Vance Wampler. So he's the investor-friendly brokerage. That's where I'm still at now. Yeah. And at that point, I was like, I don't really care what you do. She was doing the transactions. I was just doing the Facebook stuff. I had no idea what Vance had to offer by any means. I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. I just knew that it was $200 a month and that was it. So we switched over and she got out of the business. And then I think I'm pretty vocal on Facebook with my opinions. I think just me being so vocal about discounting my fees for investors on how to work with realtors and how to work with investors. I started doing a lot of stuff with Propelio, and then just being at Vance's brokerage, all of that stuff just kind of put me in this. And I think it just aligns with who I am more. Keller Williams, the brokerage that I was at, we weren't allowed to wear blue jeans into the office.
Right.
And inside of the broker, and to me, I'm like, what? I'm literally in a sweatshirt and leggings all the time. What do you mean I can't wear blue jeans?
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm supposed to be self-employed. Why are you telling me what I can and can't wear? Like,
I didn't actually know that, and that's actually really crazy to me, um, hearing that. I mean, so basically it happened pretty organically from you.
yeah.
My takeaway from that is like the more knowledge you gained about it, the more it just kind of organically happened
Yes.
to put you.
I'm pretty fluid in my business. Like, I think, man, I read the Atomic Habits, like one of the last parts in Atomic Habits. It's like literally the last paragraph in it. It talks about, you know, a man that's alive can move, right? And is nimble, but a man that's dead is stiff.
Right.
So if you're stiff and you don't move within your business, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. And I was like, oh, that's so amazing. Like, and it's so true. Like, if you're not fluid in your business and you're not changing with what's happening and what you're aligning with, then you'll die in your business.
Right. And like, so for people that are newer, it's really hard to find that balance between like that laser focus and being actually fluid, because real estate really calls for that. And so like my thing is like, I just always tell people like arm yourself with knowledge, like just keep learning, because that kind of helps you to be fluid, the more experience and stuff you get under your belt. So what was this like, was there anything that was super scary to you about transitioning over, or super scary to you, like jumping into being an entrepreneur, that you can kind of touch on to just help people that might be in those earlier phases?
I mean, I was struggling being a traditional real estate agent, because it goes hand in hand with everything with investment, right? Like, when they're teaching you, this is how you should do things, this is how you should be. And it's like, but I don't like that. Like, I don't align with that. Like, I don't want to go door knock. Like, I don't want to cold call. And it's like, I always felt bad, like, that I was doing something wrong. I'm like, why can't I go knock on this door? Like, why am I so afraid to cold call? And there is a sense that you do have to get over your fears, right? But at the same time, but if something else works better for you, if driving for dollars works better for you, then do that. But don't be afraid to like do your own thing. I mean,
Right.
Just because mailers works for somebody else doesn't mean that you'll do good at mailers. Just because cold calling works for somebody else, you may suck on the phone. Do something different. Like, you know, maybe you are the type of person that you go door knock and you're more of a face-to-face. Like, don't, just because someone's mentoring you to do something like what worked in their business, that may not work in your business. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. But that was the big thing. And it took me a little while, I think, to find that groove of just be who I am and accept what I'm doing in my business that brings me energy or takes my energy away.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest, I mean, it really is, that's the scariest thing, is figuring that out and going against some of what the mentors are telling you to do. Like, just because they're telling you to cold call 1,000 people a day, that may not be something for you to do. Like, figure something else out, and that's okay.
As a business owner, like, I actually explain that concept to, you know, members of our team all of the time. I do think that there is a lot of power in, you know, growing into, because I personally, I will never forget one of the very first times RJ made me go door knock. Now, this was in a previous business. He like pushed me out of the car, and he tells this story a lot, but I just was really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
I have no problem, but it took me a long time to grow in that area. So even if your intentions are to grow yourself or your team, or put people that are good at that in place, you still know, like, the ins and outs of it. I would just say, like, be okay with getting to a point where you're comfortable and learning how you are comfortable in those different things. Because, I mean, I'm sure you would agree, like, you're where you were on day one to where you are now, you're probably way more comfortable than on the phone, or way more comfortable if you had to go knock a door, or way more comfortable, even though that might drain you of energy and you might have somebody else go do it, that you would at least be comfortable if you had to do it, you know?
Oh, 100%. And I'm really, really good on the phone, actually. Like, I can get people to tell me like anything and everything. It's so crazy. And I literally can find just about anything out. But it's someone, man, sometimes I wish I could like remember who told me or where I heard some of this stuff from. But when you're on the phone though, like making a cold call, don't ever let the conversation end. Like if you just keep asking a question, like if you feel like that's the end of the conversation, you have to keep asking questions, whatever it is. I've had it before where I cold called somebody and they were like, I don't know what address that is, and I don't know who you're talking about. Well, it ended up being the owner of the home. It was her nephew had lived in the house, and it was the nephew's ex-girlfriend from like 3 years prior, but they had a kid together. So she was connected to him. And I literally traced it all the way back just by asking questions. And she was like, oh yeah, no. Now I know who you're talking about.
Oh, I wish I had a gold nugget button right now.
Yeah, I know.
Like that is so key.
I know that, like, I hate cold calling. I hate it. I still may be good at it and I still can do it. And I have faith that if I have to do it, then I will. But my business, like, I do not want to be a cold caller in my business. And I've built my business specifically for that.
Right. Well, and if you eventually bring more people on, you'll have the skills to be able to teach them and work with them. You know, so that's important as well. But yeah, you're right. When it comes to like being like one man shows, like I think you've really got it pegged where, you know, you've built it up to be successful in that you're not spending time on things that just like bring you down, because then you have nothing left in the cup to put into the other things that you need to achieve.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess last question. I mean, I know I could talk to you for days and days. I should probably set up a vault interview. But last question for this particular underground interview. What would be your best practice, like best practice advice? And it could be really tactical or set thing.
Hold on. My stand.
Best practice, get a phone stand. No.
So, man, here's what I'll say. Well, I have two, but one, you just have to take action. Like, I know everybody says that day in, day out, whatever. And here's something that I've just learned, but if that action is one thing, if you're scared of cold calling, you're scared of doing something else, and you really want that in your business, make one cold call a day. Like, don't think that you have to do this large scale of it. But the biggest thing, and I told you this before, when you're in people's inboxes or you're calling them, you're texting them, and you want them to mentor you, stop asking them to meet for coffee. Stop asking them to meet, you know, and say, hey, can you do this for me? And it's nothing against anybody that does this. Quite frankly, I don't have the time for it. Like, and if I'm making time for you in my life, like, you are very important and you're very special to me. Like, that's a big thing for me. But I know, but literally ask them if you could chauffeur them for a day. Like, pick up the phone and say, hey, you know what? Like, I don't want to just ask you for coffee, but I would love to be able to pick you up and take you to all of your appointments today. And can I just shadow you for however long? Or if you know they're getting ready, like, we've got Ground Zero coming up at the end of February, right? So how many of us are going down there in February? Could you not pick up the phone and say, hey, do you mind if I ride with you? Like, having that one-on-one time, and you guys did that for me, but having that one-on-one time without the, can you take time out of your day for me agenda? Because most of us just simply don't have time for that.
Well, and I think that is one of the coolest things, because I'm one of those people, like, we do so much to put content out there to help people to share our journey, you know, be it across the board. Our mastermind, I think that's set up, Next Level Flipping is set up to be where we can still pour into people and it not take an insane amount of
Yeah.
time all day, every day. Like we can, you know, really easily categorize what we can pour into people. And like that makes so much sense to us. So that's one of the big factors and where it came from.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we put podcasts out so that we can, so like more people can get at that information.
Yeah.
Or we're active on socials because like it's so much easier for us to be in charge of our time that way based on the things that we have to achieve. So we do a good bit of work to give back to the real estate community. But I think also like I always would feel bad. People would be like, hey, like it happens minimally weekly. And
Yeah.
I just feel like a big fat jerk whenever I say it, but I'm just like, I don't know how to respond to people half of the time when they're just like, can we please meet for coffee? Like everybody needs to eat. Can we please meet for lunch? And I'm just like, you are in Dallas or you are, you know, you are 45 minutes, an hour from me. Like that takes an hour of driving just for us to meet in the middle and get lunch. And so
Oh my gosh, I think about drive time too. I'm like, okay, it's 45 minutes to get there. It's an hour and 15 minutes to eat. 45 minutes. I like time it in my head.
right. And then whenever another like really strong, I hope we're not going like severely over time, but this
We
is
probably are, but that's okay.
subject. Well, we don't care. We do what we want on the I think it's like super vital to have an objective. Have an objective. Like when you want to meet with somebody or you say, even when you're saying, hey, let me chauffeur you or let me shadow you or let me roll with you or let me go whatever, door knocking. I don't know, whatever it may be where you found as a new person, to sit there and say, my objective in this isn't just to pick your brain. That's like my
Yeah, that's so broad. What does that mean?
Yeah. Don't. I say this because it's something I had to learn. Don't like, hey, I want time to pick your brain. It's not because the person you're asking for to be in that it's great that you're asking to be surrounded by somebody who's further along in their journey, therefore you're wanting to put yourself around them to grow, but have an objective, like be specific, because there's so many people who have asked me to have that lunch or have that coffee or meet that I would genuinely, out of like my heart, because real estate changed our lives, I would genuinely love to help, but it just doesn't actually, like I can't fit it into the priorities or make it make sense with my schedule, or I can't schedule it so it falls out because they be like, oh, I don't want to bug them. Like that's the worst. It's just like, man, we would go extra to help anybody, but we typically, when it works out, it's because we're forming a really good working relationship.
No, and that's exactly it. And I'm not saying that to be, you know, rude or anything, but it's like, I know, and I've heard this from so many people in this business that are further along, you know, in their journey, where they're like, I simply don't have time to go through and meet all these people. And that's why we do networking events. Most of the questions that people are going to ask, they're on YouTube, to be honest. There's so much content that's being put out right now. It is hard to formulate and put that all together.
And then also some people are better at hands-on or in-person, which is where I always say, if that's the case, you can't get anybody, get a deal in JV with them and just ask to ride along for it or ask to meet once a week for it, because anybody that's busy sit there and like it produces income, you're going to find a way in the schedule. But then again, you're going in with an objective. They will through this process. So we've had a lot of people that do that in JV with us too. So, well, I am so glad that you came on today and you were my first.
Me too.
My objective, and I told you, I'm like, nope, I think you got to be my first interview on here.
Oh, I love it.
But I'm so glad that you came on today, and we'll have to schedule some more time so we can just deep dive into some things on the vaults. But you know, as for the Titanium Underground listeners or future listeners, since we're brand new, I'm sure they're really grateful for you sharing those key points with them. And especially coming out there from like, you hustle, girl. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you asked me to be on this. Like, I know that, we've been doing quite a bit together here lately, and, you guys have, we've talked about the vault and all of that. So when you're like, hey, we've got this thing we're doing, I'm like, yay. Like,
yeah, I know. I'm
I
like,
think it's
don't
so
be
cool to
surprised
do
if
this.
I interview Katie 25 times for this. So,
There you
all
go.
right.
There we go.
Well, y'all have a good day out there hustling, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, guys.